Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Up-Beet Dietitians podcast.
Hello, everyone. Today we are doing another reacting to our old videos. We haven't done one of these in a really long time, but we figured we'd do another one. I feel like it's fun more for you guys than us. It's kind of torturous for us to go back and listen to what we said 4 years ago, but we will persevere for you guys. So before we get into it, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube, especially for today's episode. We're going to be showing the old clips so you can see little baby us back then, see the setup differences. That's always fun for me.
Ugh, yes.
And then make sure you are subscribed to our Substack. Lots of exclusive content there. Additionally, you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the things. And we're going to talk about keto today.
hmm
It's been a while since we've I feel like talked specifically about keto, but this episode we recorded or came out May 19th, 2021, which is crazy,
That was
almost
so
four
long
years ago.
ago.
We completed a
4 years?
degree. Think about that. Like we could have completed
Oh,
our bachelor's in that time.
what?
That makes me kind of nauseous to think of.
Me too.
But it's been a minute since we've recorded this. Also, this podcast is coming on 4 years. I think it's an April date, right? We started April 2021.
4 years. Yep.
Yeah, in 2 months. We're almost there. That's
Wow. I feel
scary.
old and sad and also happy. Wow.
Yeah.
So many things.
Yes. But before we get into the specific clips, we're going to talk about our initial thoughts.
This is episode 7, by the way. So a
Yes.
million years ago.
Yeah.
One of our first single digits. Initial thoughts. I mean, of course, we watched it before recording today's episode, and the first thing I always think is like, look at those children recording that episode. Those are not the same adults that you're listening to right now.
No. As we were talking about how I guess our skin's still breaking out
Yeah.
and we're fatigued and worn down.
Yeah.
I will know. I feel like we were a little peppier.
Yeah. We were very excited to be talking about the keto diet.
Yeah, but it was kind of cute.
The audio and video quality, though, immediately I noticed just how I think it was my end, just like the background noise. There was birds chirping. I had like the window open or something. I think I could hear Finn eating out of his metal bowls downstairs. So bad.
For some reason, when I heard the birds chirping, I'm like, we don't hear that as much anymore. The birds are gone.
No, it's
Maybe
because
the
we
world is,
are better podcasters,
yes,
not because the birds are dying.
very true.
Correlation is not causation.
I was a little scared, but I was like, well, birds. I thought it was kind of cute, but also not
Yeah,
good for a
it was
podcast.
cute, but not professional whatsoever. Not that we know what we're doing now. We have our flaws with
Right.
video and audio, but
Yes.
much improved. We can at least say that.
hmm
And to get through it, I'd listen on 2x speed, like always. I just
Same.
cannot listen to us on regular speed. If you guys
No.
do that, I don't know how you do it, honestly. You are saints.
We take so long to say
Like
words.
just spit it out. Or I talk too fast sometimes, but
Mm,
I, I don't know. I just like can't hear myself like work through a sentence in regular speed.
yeah. I notice I do the same thing where I'll make a huge long sentence just by saying and
Yeah.
for a long time. And still do this as I notice when I'm editing YouTube videos and I'm like,
Mm.
oh, still have that habit.
Still
Can't.
going 4 paragraphs later.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, end this sentence and move on. You don't need to connect it.
Let's just remind everyone that we are dietitians. We are not videographers. We are not media trained. We are just making it up as we go along.
Yes. I like the no media training. I've never thought of us that way, but that checks out.
Literally none. We are just doing and saying whatever feels right.
Yeah. For better, for worse.
Better or for worse. Okay. Any final initial thoughts before we get into the clips that I'm
No,
dreading?
I think we should just get into it.
Okay. I just okay.
We listen to it in 2x speed.
We'll listen to it in regular right now just for you guys.
Mhm.
It often does work. That's the experience that I've seen in the short term. Now, don't get me wrong, it's often a very short term fix and it's very, very restrictive. And the minute you kind of stop doing this diet and go back to your normal eating habits, the weight comes right back on. And the reason it's so rapid is because you remove an entire macronutrient. So, of course, you're going to be, eating less than what your body burns. And that, of course, leads to weight loss. And it's so rapid because our body uses glucose as glycogen. That's like the storage form of glucose that we use for energy. And glycogen is largely composed of water. And so when we're depleting those glycogen stores, we are losing a lot of water weight with that. So that initial drop in weight that you often see with the keto diet is typically just water weight.
I just love how clinical you are.
I was like, spit it out, lady. Like, that does not mean anything to the lay person listening to this. My gosh. Also, I heard Ross doing the dishes in the basement or on the first floor.
Yeah. But
uh, yeah.
yeah.
We were just so like the first like 20 episodes, we were so clinical and sciency and not relatable whatsoever. It's
No, we do not show any of our personality.
no, which honestly, it's taken a long time to do that. Maybe even more than 20 episodes
Mm-hmm.
before I felt like I was like really myself online.
Yeah. But I like how you're like the water in the glycogen. Which, like, I
Gosh.
feel like some people will appreciate that explanation.
It was all true. I will say that. Like what I was saying has all the truth to it, but they don't need to know that. If we just say it's water weight and move on, that'll get the job
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
I think for the podcast we are hosting anyway, I'm sure there's some podcasts where people do seek for those more like intense descriptions of science and everything, but we haven't really made that our like niche necessarily.
No.
But
We
we were
don't
so
go
early
as
on
in.
back then. We didn't really know how we were going to go with the podcast.
Yeah. We're figuring it out. We're talking about like back to school nutrition and keto and our beef with CrossFit.
How
And
to start a blog.
we weren't sure who we were.
No, no. And now we're loud and proud about who we are, for better or for
Mhm.
worse.
Yes.
But yeah, I think this was also weird because I was still working at a weight loss clinic. We still were in our pretty close post grad arena, I guess you could say. So our talk of weight loss is just different overall compared to what it is now.
Yeah. Interesting. We weren't as like pushing weight loss, which I thought was very interesting for us.
Yeah. So compared to which one was it that we reviewed last time where Haze, episode
That was a mess.
22. And yeah, that was after this one. So we recorded a response to episode 22, our Haze reaction or our Haze episode. And we were way more diety in that one.
Yeah.
I guess we were
I think it was
just,
because like we did not get haze and
that's
we did
true.
not understand it.
I'm very glad that we reacted to that one.
Me too.
That
As
one was
hard as it
icky.
was.
Um,
But it was needed.
we're just singing a different tune now, 4 years later.
Hmm.
All right. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next clip?
No.
Okay.
When you're working out, your carbohydrates are not only your primary source while you're living your everyday life, but especially when you're exercising because it relies on your glucose system or not your glucose system. I'm trying to think of the different systems. I know.
I'm tapping into my inner like HK classes in
I
my
know.
head
I
that I
know there
know
are
are
like
still
three
in
systems. I
there.
think there's an ATP creatinine cycle. It's been a while.
Bear with us.
It was just I was like, you could tell we're so fresh out of college.
Yeah.
Like, no one cares about all of these the mechanisms that you're, like, the names of
And like you were
Anyway,
so serious about getting it exactly right. You could not misspeak about this.
it's the Purdue trauma.
Yep.
Also, I think I heard less of the background noise when I was listening to two times speed. but I heard it a lot more there.
You can Finn in that clip was literally eating his food. You could hear him eating out of his food bowl. I hear that sound every day. Oh,
It's so funny.
so bad. We tried like that was my little like what's it called like lapalier mic or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
I had that era. I had my other like main mic that really sucked, and we finally landed on this guy here, which has got the job done.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
Little
Yeah, that was
nerds
just another great example of us being super nerdy and not at all relatable.
and not really knowing how to present information probably really well in a podcast form. It
No,
was more lecture-y. That's what we knew.
that's what we knew. We had one singular class on making information for the media, and that was literally it. Okay. I say we just zoom through. Let's go to the next one and get this over with.
Yeah.
This is like our final thoughts on the keto diet.
Mm-hmm.
So, the verdict, kind of the bottom line about the keto diet. If it's sustainable for you, might be a fine tool for you to use, a fine diet for you to follow. But for most people, it's important to remember that all foods can and should be enjoyed in moderation. Carbs themselves do not cause obesity or diabetes or any other chronic condition. And the best diet for you is one that you can stick to long term, that you enjoy, and one that meets your body's unique needs.
There is a lot that goes into your general health, and food is not the only thing. And taking
Yeah.
an entire macronutrient normally won't fix those problems you're seeking to fix.
Yeah, it will just make you sad because carbs are good and delicious.
We love carbs.
Yeah. Oh, I should wear my carb shirt today.
Okay. Oh, we're so silly.
Also, is my voice still that high?
No,
I
I
feel
think
like
you sound totally different.
okay, I sound like I'm 11 years old.
No, I don't. You do in that, but I don't think you sound like that anymore.
Okay. Okay, good. The whole time I'm watching, like, who's that fetus?
That's a child.
I went outside. I went to the bars like that. They let me in.
No wonder they always carded you.
Yeah. But I feel like we wrapped it up pretty well.
Agreed.
Like a pretty neutral stance, honestly, than maybe what we'd say now.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like that I said was calling obesity a chronic condition, but that's a whole other
Mm,
conversation.
yeah.
One that we talked about in the Hayes reaction episode.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. That was concise of us, first of all. I'm
So
like, wow, we didn't
concise.
ramble for like 40 minutes about the the outro.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I was impressed with this episode. We
Overall, same.
really, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
No, honestly, the worst part was the presentation, like the audio, the video, all of that,
Yes.
which I'll just blame that on us being newbies.
Mm-hmm.
But compared to the other two or three that we've reacted to, this is probably the easiest one to digest.
Yes, definitely.
I did include one more clip for our bonus question because we used to do our bonus questions in the main episode, if you guys remember, but we would end up talking for like an hour and a half. So we had to separate them.
Mm-hmm.
This is some breaking news where I learned some devastating information about my podcast co-host.
Do we prefer chunky or creamy peanut butter better? Emily, would you like to begin?
I will begin the discussion.
Da, 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 da.
I
So
literally
my
just made that same
defense.
noise. Oh my god.
is I prefer chunky peanut butter because I don't really like peanut butter as it is. And I know that's very like I know. Like I like peanut butter, but I don't like eating it a lot. And I think that's because I don't like peanut butter and jellies, which is another
What?
I like think they're the boringest food in the world.
How has this not come up before? What?
I don't
Oh, I was
I'm
shook.
so upset.
My face was I was so upset. Do you feel the same 4 years later about peanut butter and jellies?
I feel like I appreciate them more. Like I like them as like a on the go snack Love them for like a little hiking trip lunch.
Perfect for
So
that.
good.
Yeah.
I think it was like I didn't really grow up eating peanut butter and jelly, so I don't know
Mm.
what my beef was with them. They were just not great. Maybe it's because we were always using creamy peanut butter, and then I was like, ooh, chunky peanut butter. I like having the extra texture.
The
That's
texture.
maybe it was a little bit too monotonous for me. But I was
I
like,
can
oh,
see
you
that.
can do other things.
Yeah. That'll happen when you go off into the big girl world.
Hmm. You can customize your own PB&Js.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I grew up in a family that ate like the whole grain, seeds and nuts kind of bread, which I'm not opposed to, but it's not good on a PB&J. You need like
No.
soft, usually like white bread is the best for PB&J.
Hmm.
So that's in my example of how it's much more enjoyable now, but you can customize it, make it your own.
Yeah, much more fun.
Hmm. Okay. Well, there are a few things that I wish, or we both wish that we had brought up that we didn't, things that we would likely talk about now if we were doing a full keto diet review. One of them, which you guys probably aren't surprised about if you listen to us more now than you did back then, is the cost of following the keto diet. We did not bring that up back then. We talk about it all the time now with every diet review that we do, just how expensive it can be to follow all these random particular diets that have all these rules. And keto is so strict. I mean, if you're doing it quote unquote right, your carb intake is so low that you have to like be very nitpicky about everything, and eating in a way that is actually going to lead to ketosis is going to be probably pretty pricey. Lots of meat,
A
eggs.
lot of meat,
My gosh,
eggs,
eggs.
eggs these days.
We did not know the egg prices in 2025 back then.
No. That is kind of crazy that we didn't talk about the cost because that we always bring that up
I know.
now. It was probably our first diet review, I think.
Yeah, like our first like official one.
Hmm.
Episode 2 was a random modge podge of diet
That's
reviews.
kind
We
of
don't
a
talk about
mess.
that.
I probably would not recommend listening to that episode. It's
No. We did review it though,
messy.
if you want to hear
Yeah.
our 4 year later thoughts.
Hmm. But the cost is crazy. Also, I feel like we might have hinted at this a little bit, but not really at this next point about how like eating so little fiber will affect your cholesterol.
Yeah.
We did talk a little bit, like we like 1 millisecond about how potentially eating keto could increase like your LDL cholesterol, but we focused it on more of like the meat and like
The
saturated
fats.
fat side of it rather than how not having fiber can like really affect your health. Also, we're such like a big fan of fiber. And fiber is such
Yeah.
an underrated, yet people know how important it is, yet somehow it gets lost in translation, I feel like all the time.
Didn't we declare 2024 the year of fiber? Is that when we
We
started all
did.
that? So I think we weren't quite on our fiber obsessed train
Yes.
yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did bring it up a little
We're
bit,
still
like
there.
fiber and constipation, how you'll have bad poops if you follow this diet. But yeah,
Hmm.
we didn't really touch much on cholesterol levels in terms of how fiber can impact that, how eating a higher fiber diet can be good for your cholesterol levels.
Yeah.
And similarly, speaking of like cardiac diseases, we did bring that up a little bit, talking about the risks, but we didn't talk about the risk of following this crazy high fat diet and how it impacts the other systems in the body, like renal function, your pancreas, gallbladder, acid reflux, gastroparesis. I see patients with all of these conditions on a regular basis, and I cannot imagine how they would feel if they were eating that kind of like fats and that few grams of fiber as well.
It'd be so harsh on your body. You'd not feel good.
No. Do you ever see people doing keto and renal?
No,
Yeah, good.
never. Because
Do you ever
typically,
see?
actually, well, it's actually ironic I don't because, like, you have to increase your protein intake so much. I'm surprised.
Yeah,
And you naturally just have to reduce some fruits and vegetables from like a potassium standpoint. But I think they're a lot of them are constipated on dialysis. So, like, I don't think they could.
Yeah.
like, or it would not last long.
Do you ever see like kidney stones very often?
Not really,
Okay.
which kind of sometimes surprises me.
Yeah.
But like I've seen maybe less than 5.
I mean, I guess if they're on dialysis, it's probably helping so they don't get kidney stones.
Yes. Yeah. More so I'd say I'd seen them with a history of kidney stones.
Yeah.
Where they like to bring it up and tell me about it. I'm like, okay.
I can only think of one patient. I've had a few with kidney stones that I've seen for that specifically, but one of them I remember she was doing like a keto type diet. I don't think it was true keto, it was more like a low carb, super high protein, but I'm pretty sure that's what caused her kidney stones was a ridiculously high amount of protein per day.
Mm-hmm. I've had people talk to me about this, and like, I would not be surprised where they talked about how they tell me that they think protein caused their kidney failure,
Mm,
which I'm like, let's look at like maybe the overall like hypertension, diabetes, stuff like that.
yeah.
But there are some cases where then I'll talk to them and like the amount of like supplements they were doing and how little of anything else they were eating. I'm like, you know what? You might have been onto something with how much protein you were eating, and your kidneys already at like 15% function, and you're
Yeah.
overrunning it with protein. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
And oftentimes these are the people that are like the gym bros. And they're like, I was doing all these things and then
2.5 grams per pound of body weight.
yeah. I'm like, no, 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 we don't.
That's crazy high.
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, this diet is, as you've probably heard, you have heard from us, terrible for heart health, but such a high fat diet and low fiber diet, and potentially the high protein aspect of it too, can be
Yeah.
detrimental to other body systems too.
Mm-hmm. And then also just like this kind of goes nicely in with this, like from the fact that you're limiting so much fiber, you're limiting so much like variety in what you're eating with so much focus on protein and fat, like you might be nutrient deficient in many vitamins and minerals too that you get from like all your colorful fruits and vegetables and your whole grains and your legumes. Are beans allowed on keto? I'm gonna assume no because of the carbs.
Small amounts, probably.
Okay. But like a variety, things like that, you're so pigeonholed into what you can eat that it's such a boring recommendation, but we recommend like a variety in what you eat. And there's a reason for that because you get so many different nutrients from all these different types of foods.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, like your bread and potatoes, um, beans, like these are all foods that are pretty commonly demonized on this diet specifically. They're so full of other nutrients. We briefly mentioned eating disorders and disordered eating, but I do want to emphasize just the serious toll that following this kind of diet can take on those who have an eating disorder or at risk of developing one. I'm trying to think if I had to like put a number to it. A large chunk of my eating disorder patients that I see are terrified of carbs because of this diet being so popular. I don't think I've actually ever met one that felt like fully confident with eating the carbs they need every day. Like whether it's binge eating, anorexia, like ARFID, there's almost always some sort of like carb related fear in there because they're just so commonly demonized.
Yeah, it reaches a lot of people. And even if people aren't trying to listen for it, they hear it and then that gets in their head. It can be really harmful.
Yeah. Whenever I have patients that benefit from like going into the nitty gritty and like calculating their grams of carbs needed per day, which I always love doing. So I love getting into like the nitty gritty like that, but not always helpful. But for those that it is, and I will do that with, they're always shocked when I say, like, oh, you need like 3 times the amount of carbs that you're eating right now. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
are you sure, lady? But yeah, people are always shocked and very hesitant to eat more of those, even when it's coming from a dietitian who I like will show them the math, like how I get these numbers, and they're still just like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's not what Carnivore MD said.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Keto has been around forever, it feels like. I
It
don't
does feel
know.
like forever. Our entire dietitian career,
So
this is what we've
far,
been fighting.
yeah, yeah.
The main one.
It has changed some. in the
Hmm.
past like 4 years since we recorded this. Of course, we talk about carnivore on here sometimes. We have reviewed that. So we've gone from keto, which is of course very low carb, to carnivore, which is like none basically. According to some, others will allow like honey, some allow some fruit. It just depends, but in most cases
Yeah.
carnivore is like straight up meat.
Hmm. And then there's the other like the classic marketing tactics, the dirty keto, the lazy keto, all just
Mm,
low carb variations, not ever allowing you to actually go into ketosis. We did discuss this in the episode about how like your chances of actually staying ketosis are very low. Like the minute
yeah.
you aren't eating like that every single day of every hour, like you'll go out of it because your body does not want to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
But the dirty keto and lazy keto, it's just a whole nother marketing tactic to get you to purchase their products or follow their meal
Oh,
plan.
lazy keto drives me nuts. I'm like, you're not doing keto. You don't have to be a part of something to like be pursuing healthy behaviors. Like you could just do your own thing. Doesn't need a label. Lazy keto is not a thing. It's just a low carb diet at that point, which is, I mean, fine if you want to do that. I don't care. But like we don't need to do it. I don't know. It's just very frustrating.
Yeah.
We always have to like people feel this need to like label what they're doing with their diet. I feel like that's always been a thing.
Hmm. It's
But
like
like,
the desire to like feel like you're a part of something.
yeah. Yeah, which I can understand that desire, but I'm here to tell you that you don't need to like have a label to what you're eating.
Yeah.
It can just be eating.
You can be individualistic in other ways.
Yeah.
Not, you don't have to be with your nutrition.
Some ketoers, or it's become, I guess, more popular to count carbs kind of as a way to pursue ketosis or pursue a low carb diet. We talked about like macro counting, calorie counting, and those are still very popular. But of course, people have specifically gone to like just counting carbs and like not worrying about calories or their macros aside from carbs. Eh, again, do what you want, but likely, unless you have like insulin dosing to worry about, you probably don't need to be nitpicking how many grams of carbs you're consuming.
Not
Have
at
you heard
all.
of the targeted
I
keto?
was gonna say, I don't know what this is.
I've not seen it a whole lot, but basically it's just, well, have you heard of carb cycling with exercise, like
Yeah.
adjusting your carbs to your
Yeah,
exercise?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Basically
yeah.
it's that, but it's much more minimal carbs, of course, being a keto version of that. So it's basically timing your
Mm,
very few carbs you get per day around exercise. So still eating
interesting.
like less than 5% of your calories from carbs, but
Yeah.
you're timing them just right around your exercise. Because everyone knows, even the targeted keto people, that you need carbs for exercise. Ugh,
This sounds exhausting.
it's just ironic. They recognize how important they are, but still are going to restrict them severely.
Like, by the way, let's just make this even more complicated for you.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've seen more like keto approved products? I feel like I have.
I think I would say so, yeah.
It's like
Especially around like,
everything.
yeah.
I have a patient who, I think he has diabetes, so he was like trying to limit his carbs for that reason. But he eats these bagels. I forget the name of them, but they have like 36 grams of fiber per bagel.
Fiber. Oh my
I was
gosh.
like, "Are you okay?" He's also like in his like 80s, and so his bowels are already like messed up from just being an old guy. I'm like, "Are
Hmm.
you sure you're okay eating that many grams of fiber at one sitting? That's crazy high."
That's crazy.
That's like what he needs in the whole day, just in one little bagel. Those are good though. I was like, okay, well, if you're feeling good. And then speaking of like the carb counting, one last thing, there are tons more, at least from what I've been hearing from patients, especially like keto apps, carb counting apps, carb master type things, and online
Hmm.
communities like keto recipe, Facebook groups, and keto weight loss, motivation, blah, 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 blah.
Oh boy.
Boring.
Wow. I think our stance has kind of stayed the same
Yeah.
for the most part. I honestly feel like there's just so much else right now that keto has like almost gone
I
to like the
almost don't
back burner.
care.
I like, yeah, I'm like, I don't we were really passionate about it despite our very concise presentation.
Yeah,
Um, that doesn't mean we weren't passionate. We were just we knew how to present our information in a very specific manner.
apparently.
But I feel like, yeah, it's just one of those things where we just have such bigger fish to fry right now. And
If someone
it's,
told me they're doing keto right now, I guess if I was working with them one-on-one, we would dive into that, their whys and all of that. But if like, I don't know, a great aunt tells me they're doing keto, I'm not going to give two shits about that. I'm like, do whatever you want. I don't fucking care anymore.
yeah, we're not going to fight about it anymore.
No.
Not worth our energy.
Okay. Well, this has been fun. Next week is the season 10 finale, which is
Yeah.
wild.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see you guys next week for our finale. Then we'll likely have a few weeks of some throwbacks. If you guys want to hear more of these reaction videos, let us know in the comments because, like we said, we have more than plenty to react to. We have so much cringe, enough to go around.
Yes. And if you want to hear more from us today, go on over to Substack where we have our bonus episode that we're about to record.
All right, guys. See you next week.
Bye.